Hey everyone, welcome to the Anchor of the Week. My name is Zach.
And I'm Courtney, and we're an initiative of Hope and Anchor Community Church in London.
Each week we'll discuss different topics relevant to faith and Christianity in today's culture.
We're here to build a space for the church to share our experiences and challenge one another to grow in living a life like Jesus. Yes, hello everyone, welcome back.
Welcome, Timo.
Yes, good to be here, as always.
As always.
Yes. Now, we've got a pretty exciting episode.
Oh, Courtney,
Yeah.
I'm absolutely buzzing.
You are.
I am.
Yeah.
Seriously, I was on a high, since we left the interviews. Boom,
Yes.
I just dropped.
He just dropped. No
dropped.
warning. Guys, we took it to the streets
We
yesterday.
did, literally, yep.
Yeah.
Mics, ourselves, cameras, everything.
Everything.
To the streets.
Exactly. It was a good time.
Yeah.
We honestly, we had, good expectations, We're like, okay, we're ready to see what everyone thinks.
Yeah.
About chaos, essentially.
man.
We're still in the chaos theme for those of you who are either coming back or if you're tuning in. We are kind of riding this wave of chaos.
Yep.
Of the theme of chaos. Are we riding the wave of chaos?
No, we
No.
are trying to go against the norm.
Exactly. That
was
is true.
Last week's hashtag,
Yeah.
but
Exactly. But yeah, but honestly, our expectations were blown away.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
had some really great, really deep chats with people on the streets of Camden.
yeah, I was so blessed, and it really opened up new doors for
Oh my goodness.
not just for us to talk about, but even just for us to go away and think about a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of challenge us in different ways. It was really good.
Honestly, you go in with one mindset, and then just hearing other people's perspective is so good. And yeah, we were challenged,
Yeah.
and we really hope that you guys listening will be challenged as well.
Yeah,
So
enjoy.
I think we should just, head straight into
Straight
it.
in there. Yep.
Let's check it out. Awesome. Okay, so just quickly introduce yourself. What's your name? Where are you from?
So hello, I'm Alicia. I'm French and Spanish and been here for 5 years.
Me too. I've lived in England for 5 years, so there we go. I'm originally from Canada.
Ah, cool. Do you speak French?
Oui, mais je monte un peu. Et toi?
Okay. Yeah.
Bien sûr.
Bien sûr.
Même en français, très mal. But that is not the point. So today we are talking about chaos. My first question, very general, is what is chaos to you? Like, how would you describe that?
I would describe that like anarchy, complete anarchy, no hierarchy, nothing above us, nothing below us, pure freedom.
So freedom and chaos, do you think, in that sense, because a lot of people think freedom is a good thing, but chaos usually has a more negative side. Do you think that chaos is needed for us to have freedom, or do you think that there could be freedom in structure or freedom in order?
I think it's very interesting. I think chaos is not necessarily negative. I think we thrive in chaos. I personally lived in India for 2 years, and it was the most chaotic time in my life. And I couldn't be the woman I am today without this chaos in my life. So chaos allows you more freedom because you have to be yourself, and you have to accomplish and go through more obstacles than if you were also under structure. Is boring. We need chaos in our life.
And if you don't mind me asking, you can choose to be as personal or as not personal as you want. But you said that you wouldn't be who you are today if it wasn't for chaos. Could you kind of explain maybe some things that because of chaos, how they changed you?
Well, having chaos in your life is basically you lose all your bases, you lose your common sense, you only have to rely on you and your guts, and you have to go through challenges that in normal structure life you wouldn't have. So facing all of that makes you understand how strong you are and how you can undergo everything in life. So thanks to chaos, in India, of course.
Which part of India, if you don't mind me asking?
Delhi.
Okay. Yes, I spent a few months in India. Not 2 years, but a few months. Yes, and I can... Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on. Very different than London, for sure. But so you said, right, it makes you stronger or whatever. Then do you think, if chaos strengthens you, are you then more, do you have more of a stability than to face more chaos? Because I don't think we can escape chaos. I think it's always going to be there. But do you think the more chaos that you kind of go through and the more strength you find from that, the better you are equipped to face more chaos that's going to come later on.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
Awesome, cool. And yeah, do you have any advice for anyone? This will be kind of like our last question, but any advice for anyone that maybe is dealing with maybe chaos in the world or like even personal chaos? Because sometimes the chaos in the world creates chaos in us. Yeah, any kind of advice for anyone that's going through that?
Embrace it. It's what breaks the routine in life. And I think it's kind of beautiful. Imagine a life where it's just a straight line. How boring would that be? We need chaos to change all of that. And you will discover yourself, and you will discover how actually this little chaos is nothing, and you will be way more prepared for something even bigger. Because when you become an adult, trust me, things are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It never ends.
Yes, that's true. And do you feel like you're more like equipped to handle whatever kind of life throws at you?
Absolutely, yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, this has been awesome.
Very interesting topic. Very interesting conversation.
Yes, you did great. You did great. Awesome.
Okay, Ali, lovely to meet you, mate. Thanks for coming on. We're talking about chaos. What is your opinion, and what is chaos to you?
Chaos for me very much is just currently right now our own life, without getting like too political, obviously. I think so much of it comes down to people not listening to each other. I think that's why chaos sort of becomes a thing. It's no one listens. Yeah, that'd be probably the shorter answer. Yeah, because I mean, again, without getting too political, I think that's sort of like a solid definition of that.
So let's dive into that. I mean, I want to talk about it all. So, what do you mean by let's not get too political? Like, what do you? Yeah, elaborate a little bit. We have the time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, the current state of what the UK is, again, I sort of come back to the fact that no one really listens to each other on both sides, really. And, I think, in particular when we're talking about, like, suppressing whether it's a section of society or, sort of putting people to one side just because they can. And I think just sort of the repercussions of that mean that, chaos ensues. And yeah, just from like an onlooking point of view, because I can't say it really affects me personally, and I'm lucky with that. But yeah, mainly from like the outside in, it certainly frustrates me.
You said it's to do with kind of people not listening. Obviously, you said it doesn't affect you quite. So, like, would you say there are areas of chaos then that do affect you directly?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, so with my line of work, so I'm an actor, so my industry right now is kind of all over the shop. And sometimes there's a nice chaos to that. But right now, sort of the chaos of the last year, for example, there's been a huge repercussion of that. So that's when it affects me directly. And I guess what I was alluding to earlier when I was talking about like the political side of it, of course it does affect me politically, but I also sort of recognize like my own privilege within that, and there's definitely worse people off than that. So when I talk about sort of direct chaos, obviously it's not that bad for me personally, but it still does affect me, of course.
This is super interesting. Like acting in that kind of industry, like really, it's really polluted in terms of something we've touched on with the podcast is like chaos. Really, if you look at the root of things, it's a lot to do with your identity and what you put that in. With acting, that's super polluted and it could be really blurred. What do you put your identity in? Like, let's like really dive in a little bit more. Is it through your things that you produce or whatever, or like how would you? Yeah, I'll let you.
Yeah, that's a really good question because like, and it's something that I don't have like a solid answer for because I'm sort of constantly thinking, yeah, well, what is my identity both as a person and then, again, without talking too much about, what is my own self and stuff like that. But you kind of do have to address it as an actor. And definitely over the past sort of few months, that has been quite a chaotic sort of question I've been asking myself, probably because, the industry is quite chaotic right now. And it's, maybe like a tenth of its own size right now, and because of the pandemic, mostly. But yeah, I think it's just been it's something that's kind of ongoing because, like I turned 30 quite recently, and then that kind of offered up its own like, oh, okay, I need to reevaluate, or not reevaluate, but like maybe reanalyze, if that's like a correct term. And yeah, as I said, like I don't have like a definitive answer to it because it is like an ongoing question for actors. And to make it sort of a bit more specific about acting, you always have to kind of put yourself into it, which can be great and really exciting, and equally it can be kind of terrifying, which is kind of one of the reasons why I like doing it. You can kind of like hide behind an identity, you can hide behind a character, or you can really like throw yourself out there as well.
You are producing some amazing answers. For someone who, like, I'm very into sports and fitness or whatever, and it's so easy to put your identity in those things, like being good at something or not being good at something even. Like, I think there's positive and really, really negative aspects of it. Have you struggled with that yourself?
Yeah, totally. And I'm massively into sports as well. In fact, I'm going to play football in about 25 minutes.
Where at?
In Kennington. There's like these new pitches.
Just curious.
Yeah. But because I become a different person when I sort of play football. I'm quite like a chilled, normal guy, and I don't become when I play football, but certainly like the chaos of sport when you're, okay, or you're quite good, or whatever level that you're at. But then I definitely think, particularly in amateur sports, it's so much more chaotic because the scope is so big. Like, I mean, you probably know yourself in whatever sports that you like. Sometimes you'll be within a competitive environment with people that are really good, and sometimes people that are really bad. And like the scope is so much bigger. Whereas at least in like elite sports, like they're all pretty good. Like, of course, there are like better teams or better athletes or whatever. So yeah, I mean, that kind of chaos, I sort of really thrive on and I like, because maybe it's because it's not like my profession. It's not like something that really has to define me. It's like extracurricular, whereas going back to like my profession, there's definitely maybe a bit more pressure on it, and that chaos kind of, there are often repercussions to that as well.
A common thing we've found, this is going a little bit longer, I hope you don't mind, a common theme we found is people put their identity in what they do, like their profession, their career. For me, it's very dangerous to do that. That's my perspective. Because what if a better actor comes by, or what if, someone who's producing is like, actually, we don't like the way you're doing this. How do you react to those sort of things? How do you take that in? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, because there's definitely a line. Like, I think you have to throw yourself into for some of it, but you can't. Like, I think it's very important to have, again, to talk about acting, is yourself as an actor, but then yourself as a person. Because if you throw yourself entirely into it, you're probably going to go a bit mad. Like, you're going to be talking about Shakespeare in your sleep and stuff. And I'm sure some people do, and that's okay, but that's not for me. And I think, people can be so, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the profession that I'm talking about, but people can be so sort of like het up on a particular thing, sport, job, whatever, that then their normal life and their normal relationships, friendship, that, to bring it back to chaos, there can definitely be some sort of chaotic repercussions from that.
That's brilliant, mate. Last kind of touching point. For me, the way I like to deal with when I feel like there's chaos going on is I'll step aside. I'm a Christian. Like, I need that time with God. Like, that really feeds me. And it almost makes me realize that there's something bigger, there's something better that isn't from something that is so saturated, like acting, like whatever, sports, whatever. How do you deal with, like, if you're in a bad place mentally with this, how do you deal with that?
Probably exercise. There's definitely exercise, or trying to zone out somewhere. I mean, thing is, what so many people do, I'll watch Netflix or whatever, and I can do that. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, okay, but they're also acting, so it kind of comes back to like my job as well. So maybe I can't switch off as much as possible with that. But I think you just have to do something different, which is why, as I kind of said earlier, about it can be quite dangerous for actors in particular if they make it like their whole identity or their whole thing, because how do you switch off from that? And that goes, I guess, for any kind of professional job or whatever.
Ali, that was brilliant, mate. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate your answers, mate.
All right, so my question for you today is, to you, what is chaos?
Well, it's definitely like a difficult question to answer, but I think chaos is the main force of universe. Is definitely what is present everywhere, like in our lives, in the way we think, and the way we behave, the way we experience life, the way life works. Like I think that humans have like some sort of need of trying to control things and put things in order. However, I think that chaos is one of the main laws of universe, so that's what I would tell you like about what chaos is.
So in essence, you don't think chaos is bad. You think it's kind of needed for life, essentially.
I think, yeah, I think it's necessary for life. However, I don't think it can be good, it can be bad, depending on like anyone's perspective, of course. However, like sometimes it's good to have some chaos in your life, you know, like because like if you're in balance all the time, like how do you perceive you're actually enjoying that balance, or like how do you know that you're in like a psychological state or like in a stage of your life that will actually reassure you that you're doing things right, I guess. Like I don't think, for me personally, I don't think chaos is something bad.
Oh, that's so interesting. So then how would you perceive maybe chaos in the world today, right? Because a lot of things are going on, a lot of things are being shaken and stirred, you know, so, politically, socially, a lot of different things. How would you see that, you know, and was that a good chaos, a bad chaos?
I mean, it's pretty difficult to tell, you know, because like I mean, currently we have a bunch of things happening, like what's happening in Palestine and Israel, what's happening in India with COVID, what's happening in the world, like the different ranges of people in terms of economic capacity and like inequality and like environmental degradation. So like there are so many things that are happening that are chaotic. However, I do believe that there is some sort of need of order, especially from humans, like because like if we have the capacity to change things and organize ourselves and try to develop something out of our social skills, I think we should do it. And I do believe that humans have a natural responsibility with their peers, with society, with the world itself. So yeah, I mean, like everything is chaotic all the time. We don't have the control of things, and most of the times when we're like just citizens and we're not in the positions to actually take decisions, when we're not decision makers, we just have to deal with the chaos that a bunch of people that we don't even know create for us. So I would say that as individuals, of course, we have like a huge responsibility. If we have to go to the streets and demonstrate or to demonstrations or like to raise our voices and tell what we think and how things should be, I think might be great. So I think it's also necessary for chaos to exist, for social responsibility to take place, and for humans to wake up. Because like if we're just in a state where we're comfortable all the time and things are not happening, it might be a bit boring, you know. So like
Exactly.
yeah, that's what I would tell you.
No, that's actually a super fresh perspective, and I really appreciate that. I guess you kind of went over it, but any last tips for how you would say managing chaos, maybe in like your personal life as well?
Okay. Well, I do a lot of sports. That's what works for me. I mean, like fill your brain with endorphins. That's good advice. But apart from that, I don't know. Like art is a great way of like managing your chaos. Like I usually enjoy getting into catharsis through writing. So like just creative writing, like start writing what you think, how you feel, what do you want, and then like you end up dealing with a lot of things you never even imagined that were in your head. Apart from that, put things in order, you know, like if you believe in something, if you think something should change and you have your values and your ethic and your morals and you fight for it, I mean, I think it's the best way of trying to deal with that chaos, that sometimes is a little bit overwhelming for our lives in general.
And my last question, what are you fighting for today?
Today, what am I fighting?
Yeah, you said the things in your life that you want to fight for them. So are you fighting anything? Yes. Fighting for anything?
Yes, I'm fighting for having a cyber secure world. I work in cybersecurity. So I do believe that that's one of the main ways like we're being controlled, all the media that is happening around, all the digital devices that we have. So like I fight for freedom in the cyberspace.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Pleasure. Cheers.
Okay, so one of the points that we noticed from the first 3 interviews that we just showed you guys was a lot. In fact, yeah, they were talking about how chaos can be a good thing and how we need chaos in our lives.
Yeah.
How interesting. That's something we didn't discuss before.
I know. In our first episode, right, kind of our intro to chaos, that didn't even, we were like, okay, God is our stability in all of this. But yeah, and honestly, they made some very interesting points.
Yeah. I think I definitely, yeah. I mean, they talked about how, Alicia, she was mentioning how chaos is, like, it shapes you in who you are today after experiencing a time of chaos.
Yeah.
I thought that was super good.
And what I really liked about that is that sorry, I just cut you off, but
yeah,
I got excited.
No, crack on.
Is that she talked about how then, like, because of that, then she was more stable to, like, face more chaos. And the more, it was almost like building a muscle, you know, to be able to stand, like, be even more, like, planted during chaos. And I was like,
yeah, I know.
Wow.
So good. And if you really think about it, like, during times of chaos, obviously, depending on what it is, like, you are more vulnerable and kind of, like, you don't have as much control. You have to really rely on, like, I think she mentioned, like, inner guts almost.
Yeah.
And that's when your true side comes out, I guess.
Exactly.
So
where do you put your trust, essentially?
Yes.
And it really shows us.
Yeah. That was super good. That's something I hadn't thought about before. So a good little takeaway, like, for that is, I guess, like, chaos can be good in that way. I respect. I mean,
if you allow it to deepen your roots, I think.
And also, like, you know, who you're dealing this chaos or this time of chaos with, you know, because obviously with God, obviously it's a Christian podcast. Like, I guess you're facing the battle with the right person, and whereas in another situation, I feel like it could make things worse and worse, and the time of chaos could be longer. It could be more damaging. I don't know. Like, it's kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah. And also taking a sharp turn into identity.
Yeah, I know.
Let's do it. There's no smooth way to do this, but now taking a hard turn into identity.
Let's do it.
Switching it up, going straight there. A point that was actually brought up a lot, right? So again, with Alicia, it was more of like she like became stronger. She became who she was today because of that.
Yeah.
And then Ali as well, right? He kind of like went into identity, and just the times of chaos and how it shapes who you are in that sense.
Yeah. And Ali was an actor, which was, like, as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool. Like, because that is so polluted. Like, the industry is, it's crazy.
It's
rejection loads, and also, like, you can get way ahead of yourself in terms of, like, being good. But then just instantly it can switch.
And also your job is to be other people.
Yes, and you get
like,
so in that, don't you? In kind of, he mentioned actually, he said hiding himself under a different identity, like someone else. I was like, wow, my drop.
Exactly. Exactly.
That was super interesting to talk about. Yeah, it's easy to do.
Exactly. And another thing, well, I think a few people have talked about, was like, you know, the idea of like, you know, sport or like art, you know, to kind of like, I guess, make sense of the chaos, maybe? Or
their escape, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's super interesting that it was like the more creative, artsy side of these people. I know that's not the case for everyone, but that was their escape, and it feels like when we're producing our art, whatever that is, exercise, drawing, I don't know, whatever. Like, that's when I feel like naturally that's when you feel like that's when yourself, like when you're really you and you can just be free almost,
like the expressing
exactly.
Well, I mean, God created us to create, you know what I mean? It's all part of it.
It was an interesting connection that I thought was kind of cool to look into.
It was really cool.
And also another point they tucked on was how chaos makes life more interesting for them. I know. Like,
They're like, who would want a stable life? And I was like, oh, like, I thought I did.
Yeah, I know. Literally. That was super interesting. And like, I don't know. And also, what is, I don't know. It feels like, what is it that makes interesting good? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Are we afraid of boring, you know, as a humanity, or are we...
But why is order related to boring? Like,
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand... I mean, I understand it, but it's just really interesting to look into, like,
things that you don't really think about, the connotations that we have with things.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, super good.
Yeah. And how routine is, like, good in a sense, but it, you know, also, if you're in a routine, I think another point that was brought up was you don't realize that there could be more. Do you know what I mean? Or that things could be different if there wasn't any chaos. Which, again, that's a very interesting point.
No, it was good. It was really good. And then, like, another point, keep adding points here.
I know.
Like
We have a lot of favorite points.
We do, yeah. I mean, just recap a little bit of what was mentioned. and points that we thought were important. So another one was like our natural responsibility on this planet. I mean,
yes,
I thought that was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Also,
It's
sorry
your
we did not get your name. The person.
Yeah, I know. This,
Actually, that was a big faux pas on our step.
Yeah.
So you're just.
if you're listening, we deeply apologize.
We deeply apologize, but it was a great conversation.
We loved it. Anyway,
Yeah.
he talked about natural responsibility.
Yes, which I thought was so interesting because he brought up the fact that, like, okay, yeah, there's chaos and, like, we have to understand that some things are out of our control. However, as humans, we have been given the ability and responsibility to actually create change.
Yeah.
You know, that's what sets us apart from, all other nature.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that we have this ability to actually wait a minute, no. Like, and so we can actually, as we talked about, I think in our last episode, like we can bring that stability. We see that there is chaos in a not good way. Like, okay, what are we going to do about it? Because we could just kind of let things happen, but we can also understand that, like, we have been given like the position and the authority to create change in our lives and in other people's lives and in, social ways, economic ways, political ways, environmental ways. Like
for us, like, obviously we would be like, God's given us these things. I don't know. I don't think he mentioned before the interview he wasn't religious or anything, but it's interesting that he thought we also had a responsibility, even though he doesn't think like and believe the things that we do in terms of God giving us those abilities. So that, I wonder where he got that from a little bit.
If you're watching this, we can do a part 2.
Yeah. Get in touch. Genuinely though, actually
get in touch.
Yeah, because we were kind of a little bit annoyed that we didn't. Maybe, I don't know if we get details, but we had such good conversations, and we really enjoyed that one.
Exactly, because also brought up the fact of cybersecurity as well, which, I mean, this could be, if we start talking about this, we could go into a whole other like podcast, a whole 45 minutes worth of it. Because for him, that was his thing, that he's like, okay, no, like, we have to bring freedom, which is interesting, because he said, like, freedom in the cyberspace. I'm pretty sure that's a direct quote. Yeah. Also could not be, but, as my notes, hopefully reliable. Right? So bringing freedom in that, and that was his thing, like, not being controlled in the chaos of kind of the media thing right now going on, and all of that. But also, I think it was Alicia that said, that chaos can bring freedom, all these different things. It's like freedom and chaos. I feel like that's something that we could definitely
talk about more.
Because she talked about the anarchy side of it.
Yeah, I know, that was.
But then there's also the positive side of freedom, and there's abusing your freedom, and I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that,
or
if we should just make that a whole other episode.
No, genuinely though, like, we're very open to kind of see where this series takes us, honestly, if you like. So, the reason why we did these interviews was to grasp like where other people are at and their views, and they've definitely opened our minds into kind of how we view chaos.
Exactly.
Just different perspectives is good.
Exactly. And we have, again, we filmed yesterday, but we have so much content that we're making a second episode with more interviews.
We are. So we're going to be recapping that a little bit.
Exactly.
Next episode. Yeah.
The next episode. So again, like, it's just so exciting just to, get out of your little isolated bubble as well, and to actually be like, oh my gosh, like, this is what other people are thinking, know, and how do then we view that? Because I think it's really easy then for us to also, when I say us, I mean like humans.
Yeah.
To then be like, oh, okay, well, like, so swayed by everyone's opinion, but I think that there should be such a safe space to be able to learn from each other's, or to see it, to talk about it, to kind of like flesh it out, and to be like, okay, like, what do I believe, because a lot of times we just take things at face value.
Yeah, I have to admit, before going on, I mean, I didn't realize people thought about things like this so much, or they had such good, it's probably shallow thinking, but I really, like, just seeing them, you kind of walk up, you're thinking, okay, like what's this guy going to say? Like, will he give decent answers? And people have things to say, and people have, like, Alicia specifically, I know she said she had a time of chaos in India. Yeah. Like, how cool is that? What a cool story,
Exactly.
We all have value to give, and it was just nice to kind of, like, see that firsthand.
Exactly, and give that platform as well. Yeah.
Well. Yeah, that was a recap.
That was our little recap. As we said, we could go on and on. But we hope, honestly, that the interviews spoke more for themselves.
Yeah.
And that they caused you to think, to be challenged, and maybe push some buttons, maybe, cause you to grapple with some things, wrestle with some things, because that's what we need, honestly.
Yeah.
to create that space to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was great. And we're going to dive into these topics probably a little bit more later on.
Yes.
But have a think, because there's some good answers.
Exactly. And then we will be back with our next episode, also on the streets. So don't miss that.
Don't miss out. Big things happening.
So many big things. All right. We'll catch you guys later.
Great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of The Anchor of the Week.
Make sure you follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube so you never miss an episode.
See you next time.